When you hear of wars and insurrections, do not be terrified. By your endurance you will gain your soul. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Three years ago, I stood in this very pulpit with these same Bible readings the Sunday after the presidential election. It was an unexpected outcome, leaving pundits, politicians, ordinary people trying to discern what is going to happen next. How did this happen? Where are we going from here? The point of the sermon on that day was to offer a way of people of faith to respond in faith at that time in our country. Now, 3 years in, and 1 year from the next election, the point is still valid. There seems to be a lot of anxiety now rising over this. And this morning I want to speak about what we might do as people of faith and how we have responded since then. And it's always putting our prayer and faith into action. Our gospel writing says, when you hear of wars and insurrections, do not be terrified. The context of this story is the impending destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. The temple was the center of life for all the Jews, for all of Israel. It stood for everything they believed and understood themselves to be. And very soon, in the year 70 AD, it would lie in ruins before their eyes. No one could have ever imagined to happen like it did. Nations will turn against one another and on themselves. Even family members and friends will fight with one another and betray the other. The destruction of the temple was the end of what they knew and what they hoped for. That destruction of the building was also the destruction, as they imagined it, of their identity. It was a time filled with uncertainty and infused with fear about what would happen next. Who were they and who would they become? Does that bear any resemblance at all to what is happening in our country today? Do not be terrified. By your endurance, you will gain your souls. That is the struggle to seek and do what is right in situations precisely like ours. Deepens character, it brings faith, and helps us discern our identity. Now, throughout the exhausting process leading up to the last election and over the last 3 years, we have been fed a diet of junk food and sound bites that pass as news. And this is very likely, as we all know, to accelerate over the next year. And it's easy to grow numb to think that this is the only way things are going to be. This is our future. Texting as policy communication, tribalism, half-truths, or outright lies, sensational distraction, neglecting or harming the most vulnerable people in our society, none of these things helps us to live up to the better angels of our nation, our union, our faith. How might we find some hope for ourselves and the people we are called to serve? Put simply, what can we do about it at this time? Now, last time and now, let me suggest a few specific things. First, pray a lot. Pray for our citizens, pray for our leaders to embody the best of who we can be as a people. Pray for your neighbor, your family, your friends, and also remember to pray for your enemies, especially when you don't want to. Pray and do at least one small act of kindness every single day. Secondly, be mindful of treating anyone as the other, even those people with whom you might disagree. Now, we are not suggested that we love our neighbors. We are commanded to love both our neighbors and our enemies. At the very least, that means treating these people with respect, even when we disagree, even when we know from the bottom of our heart they are completely wrong and stupid for believing what they do. We are called in our baptismal liturgy to respect the dignity of every human being, every, not most or some or those we like, all of them. Is the person who is marginalized, for whatever reason, created in the image of God or not? Is the person who voted differently than you created in the image of God or not? When you see someone being treated as the other, as an outsider, made to be different and separate, do not look the other way. Is that person treated in the image of God or not? Thirdly, make your voice heard and your beliefs known. Volunteer in church or organizations that embody those attitudes, those values that you support. How do your time, your money, your attention reflect your values and your beliefs? Our Calvary Bazaar is a perfect example of putting our prayer and faith into action. It is one that directly changes and impacts lives for the good. Thank you for all those who help make it happen. Well, this past year, we have tried to put our faith in action in a new way, something that is bearing much fruit. We have partnered with the Tree of Life Synagogue, a local congregation. And as everyone here now knows, we hosted their high holiday services and then another Sabbath service for them to give thanks for all their new friends over the past year. Yesterday, I joined them at their invitation at their worship service for Mo Lebo's 100th birthday. And at the very beginning, or end rather, of the service, I walked in, and just like this, and imagine if somebody walked in, another minister, and the guy up front waved him in front of everybody, and then he started talking in his outside voice, thanking Calvary Church for all the Christmas cards he continues to receive every single day from people in someone other than his congregation. He says, I know I'm loved because of the cards you send. He told me to keep sending them, and I said, Mo, your birthday is over. He says, I don't have many left at 100. Send all you can. Partnering with this Jewish congregation is a theological statement of value. It is one expression of what it means to be a neighbor. And I'm pleased to announce today that they want to deepen that relationship. 1 week after the commemoration of the shooting, I was approached by a group of leaders from the congregation, and we have arranged this together. On Sunday, December 22nd, as we do every year, we will have our Christmas pageant at the 11 o'clock service. That is, all of our children gather up front, tell the story of the birth of Jesus, and in costumes, terribly cute, they lead us in Christmas carols. They're accompanied by sheep, live sheep, goats, a donkey, and a camel. Their congregation is invited to join us for the pageant and after. At 12:30 that day, that is right afterwards, Calvary will host the Tree of Life's Hanukkah party, potato latkes, jelly donuts, dreidels, Hanukkah songs, and menorah lighting. And Calvary's congregation is invited to share in their celebration of Hanukkah. Now, I know synagogues and churches have done things before, but I've never heard of a church and synagogue hosting a Christmas pageant immediately followed by a Hanukkah party, but it works in Pittsburgh. Now, note why it works is we are not trying to convert one another, but meet each other as equals and neighbors who are trying to work for the good of everyone. In these events where we come together as congregations, we each deepen our own faith and learn about the other. We are together putting our prayer and faith into action as a witness of value and hope. That is what we do here. Finally, think of your purpose, of Calvary's purpose and calling in these uncertain times as minding a metaphorical garden. What do you want to grow in your life, in your church, in our nation? What do we want to teach our children or the world about who we are and what we value? Seeds of hate, distrust, division, they've already been sown and are taking root and spreading. Plant virtues that you want to see an abundant crop of, one that you want to see take a deep root in our country, in our church. Love, generosity, understanding, patience, hospitality, and most of all, hope are what we need to grow and to share. We need deliberately to cultivate welcome and acceptance of others and the wisdom and courage to know how to do what is right. We cannot take our democracy for granted. We cannot take our faith for granted. They both need to be nurtured and tended. Keep planting these virtues and attitudes. Tend the garden, water and feed what is good. Let the sun shine on them. Name and pull out the weeds where you can. There is enough manure already, so don't add to that. Plant, tend, reap, share with those around you, and nourish everyone in hope. Let your neighbor, let the world know that we stand against bigotry, we stand against hate, and we stand with all those who are pushed to the margin. And with all those, we stand with them who work for the good of everyone in our city. We will not give in to hate, and we will not give up, and know that you are never alone, for God is always with you. We have a purpose and a calling to proclaim and embody what is good and what is just, and to do it together with our neighbors. And by so doing, we will gain our souls and the soul of our nation.